Arsenal overcome French opposition to reach Champions League final. Let's hope I'm cut and pasting this intro 2 weeks from now. This is the ArsenalVision Post-Match Podcast. My name's Elliot Smith. You can block me on Twitter, Yankee Gunner, and congrats to the Arsenal women for beating Lyon in heroic fashion. There was a remontada. It just turns out it was our remontada for the Arsenal women, and they are into the Champions League final where they will face Barcelona. And could that be something that we are saying about the men in 2 weeks' time? Let's not get ahead of ourselves, but we certainly hope so. We're going to do something fun today because there was no game over the weekend. We're going to use a format we use on Patreon to structure this conversation. We call it the countdown. 10 big topics facing Arsenal right in this moment. Now, to be fair, some of these topics are things I just pulled out of my ass, but some of these topics are certainly the big topics. So we try to go a little bit rapid fire, but get through a lot of the topics that are in the ether. So I hope you will enjoy that. You don't have to hear about the fundraiser anymore because we're wrapping it up literally in the next 2 days, except that I would absolutely be missing an opportunity to thank you. And thanking you is something that we do a lot on this podcast. And right now we're at £205,000 raised by you for children in Zaatari Refugee Camp. Thousands of children whose lives will be better because you decided to make a difference. And I'm just moved by it, so moved by it. And it is a reminder that good things and good people are out there, and you are good people. And thank you for being good people. Those of you who have signed up to Patreon, we've given a hell of a lot to the fundraiser this month, and you've helped in that way as well. If you want to sign up for Patreon and be there for the instant reaction to the PSG tie tomorrow, all you got to do is use code AVP, and you will get 50% off the first 30 days that you were with us. And then hopefully you'll decide to stay with us because you get something basically every single day of the week. It's pretty cool. Okay, enough of that. Tim did give his thoughts from the unmarked episode that's over on Patreon now if you want to hear his thoughts, and you could tell he had quite the night before. But the man who is here now, who is locked in, sharp, and focused as ever, is Clive. Hello, Clive.
Hello. And I had a quick word with Tim this morning, and we may do well, I spoke to him, he has to listen. That's how it normally works. Mm-hmm. And we are going to do what we call one of our one clubs on Patreon this week, and just to take a different spin on the women's game. So, yeah. Looking forward to that.
Well, it's a perfect time for it into the Champions League final, something we should all be very proud of because the club has done a brilliant job supporting the Arsenal women. I think our women's club is the envy of the world, and now it is reaching the levels of club football that it deserves, and certainly league titles need to be on the menu, and beating Barcelona is a big task, but really, really proud of what the women did in Lyon, a very special day out for the people that made it there and for everybody watching around the world. And I will say, just anecdotally, being in the Discord, being on social media, the number of people who were watching that game was big, Clive, because there was a lot there.
There was a lot there to watch. Mm-hmm. And I went to the home game, and it was a very high standard game of football, the highest standard women's game I've been to. And I was a little bit concerned about this game, but the way Renee sort of changed things, she took away the running power, etc. She took that away, and she basically just out-coached Joe Montemurro, basically. So, fantastic occasion. And by the way, there was another game going on today, watching another team become champions. None of us fancied that, so let's watch Arsenal instead, which everyone seemed to.
There you go.
So it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was the perfect tonic. So obviously, number one on our countdown of 10, I'm counting up. Normally we count down, but I'm going to count up. Why not? A little bit of mix up. So, you want to stay on your toes. Number one, I had Arsenal women reach the Champions League final. It is the number one topic that we're going to cover today. Then we'll get into the other big men's football topics. But I just want your read on what it means for the club at a time when the men are trying to do the same thing, the symmetry of it, the journey we've gone on, moving on from Jonas to Renee, and just the growth of the interest that you see in the Arsenal women and what they mean to Arsenal Football Club.
Yeah, I mean, this is not an overnight success. I mean, Arsenal have been pushing the women's game before other clubs were even worried, bothered about it. And they've been at the forefront and on and off the pitch. And there was a period when they won league titles every single year, just as easy as waking up and brushing your teeth. It was the competition. They had it, everything. They had all the best players playing for them. Vic Akers was the manager. And there are many major stars that are on the side of the stadium right now, and so they really have been at the vanguard of the game. But in recent years, there's been Man City and Chelsea coming to the forefront, and Emma Hayes coming to Chelsea. And it's been far more challenging. But off the pitch, Arsenal have really done a fantastic job to grow the game, really create a one club, really think about gender parity, but really think about it and do it and action it. And really, they've learned as they've gone along. They've made the game more professional for the girls, and their facilities are really good now. But that wasn't always the case. They had to fight for that. They've got it now. And so it's just really good to see the club get rewarded on the pitch, And for people, I sent Tim a voice note this morning, and I say it to him because I know he's been there from the very, very start of this almost. And he has been to places where it's one man and his dog, and he's been there in the mix zone on his own, interviewing players that probably have lost a game, been quite painful. And then he got his night against Leon where they've just got to Champions League final, and it's like, I just feel so happy for him, because he really has committed and invested in this game, in everything that he does. I feel so happy for him to be there and have that moment. On the football side of things, like I said earlier, Renee has got this unique talent. When she has a game where she may not have gone so well, she can make adjustments and completely change how we played. The intensity of the first 20 minutes against Leon in the home game, they were brilliant. And I'm looking at the pitch thinking, oh my goodness, we're going to get killed here. We actually played better than the results said. And I was really worried over the return game. But she just changed it again. She's got Kim Little and Mariona Caldenti in centre midfield. And then they just created a smaller pitch, make it a five-a-side pitch. And they just owned it. They owned that area and were really aggressive in the front line. Pressed, was really ruthless in both boxes. And it's just, I'm sitting there watching thinking, I can't believe I'm watching it. I can't believe the contrast from the previous week. And their belief and intensity and to win that game really stood out and made my Sunday complete. All that stuff going on at Liverpool, I just completely missed out. Completely missed out. It was brilliant, Elliot, and I'm just so pleased for the club today. So pleased.
Super quick question on this, and then we can move on to topic number 2. Do you feel that had Jonas gone in the summer, which I think there were people that felt that would have been the right time, maybe sort of similar to an Unai Emery situation where we tried to give it a little bit more into the next season. If Jonas had gone in the summer, do you think we might even be further ahead in the sense that we might be favorites for the league or if not favorites, right there for it? Whereas now it's not within our reach, really.
Yeah, we lost to Chelsea away game 1-0 to a late penalty when Lauren James just fell to the ground from a Kim Little tackle. And I was missing Tim for that game thinking, you know what, these two are the best two teams. They really are. And because we had a slow start, the points gap was probably a bit too large for us to catch up. But the women's game is different. You don't just fire people for making a bad substitution or something like that. It's a little bit different. There's a little bit more patience.
They need to add that innovation into the women's game, Clive. See, that's what it's missing.
But there were challenges there with the environment with Jonas, the instability of the starting 11. He had a squad maybe that was quite large and not enough games to manage that squad. And so, yeah, it was just a period that they were in, and the time had come for him to make a different pathway, and also put Renee in as an interim, and she's done brilliant. And I think she suits the players. That's the most important thing. Tim often tells me about the player-led mentality where players are involved in reviewing the game and the next steps of the game, and also have got quite an experienced team. It's a really good way to maximise your resources. So very much a collective victory. And I'm wishing that we were a bit closer to Chelsea, because right now, as we sit here today, I think we are as good, if not a little bit better. But a league season is not just a period of time; it's over the whole year. And Chelsea have invested really, really well, and they deserve to be where they are at top of the league.
Yeah, Arsenal 6 points back on 45 points through 19 matches played, 14 wins, 3 draws, 2 losses, 54 goals for and 14 goals against. To put in perspective what they face in the Champions League final, they face a Barcelona team that knocked out champions-elect, basically, Chelsea, 8-2 on aggregate. Barcelona Femini, 107 goals for, 16 goals against, a plus 91 goal difference in their domestic league. They're sensational. And it's going to be quite the test, but we'll be behind the underdog Arsenal team all the way.
Absolutely. They are fantastic to watch. It's a joy to watch. And not everyone is bought into the women's game. I totally understand it. It's your choice. Personally, I couldn't speak high enough of it, the whole atmosphere. It's a unique experience, and I really enjoy it. Watching Barcelona, you're seeing the future of women's football right there. It's just it's another level. But they're just 11 players, right? So anything can happen in a one-off game.
There you go. That's what we'll be hoping for. Topic number 2, maybe the quickest of the topics we'll handle. What's your reaction to Liverpool's title win?
My first reaction is, it may surprise some people. I sort of tweeted this out actually. This Liverpool team, and in the Klopp era, has been well put together over a period of years. They had some good reinvestments. They sold well and they bought well and bought some major Premier League stars that are going to be in the Premier League Hall of Fame one day. And they've had 97-point seasons. And if you're being a magnanimous fan, as I am, that Liverpool team deserved to win more than one title during the Man City era, which has got asterisks around it at the moment. That Liverpool team certainly deserved to win a title in front of their own fans. So I often believe that we're all football fans and there's a lot more that binds us than separates us. And for them to win one title in 30 years and to be in a COVID period is a bit of a giggle. But actually, imagine if that was us, it'd be awful, right? And the last trophy we won, the FA Cup, none of us were there, right? So I'm being magnanimous and say, look, we didn't quite do it this year. There are reasons for it. Some of them are in our control, some of them are out of our control. No one wants to hear our excuses. That Liverpool team deserved to win the title. I think they're that much better than us than the previous Klopp's team. Some of those previous Klopp's teams were way better than us. They used to slap us around. I don't think that's the case this time, but it's just the way the season's gone. But it's not about being better than the opposition. It's about winning over a whole league season. I think Slot has really managed key weeks really well, particularly the City week when they played them and they beat them. They beat them well, took out centre forward, added the midfield, and they've managed to control those heavy weeks where they've had like Villa and Real Madrid in one week and things like that. So when we thought they'd trip up, they didn't trip up, and then we did, right? So yeah, it's just the way it goes. I think they deserve it. Do I have what I think Liverpool are doing, Elliot? I think they're positioning themselves as England's club. Now Manchester United have fallen. They're the team with the most Premier Leagues, they're the team in the most Champions Leagues. It's like they want to be England's club. And I'm thinking, nah, mate, are you looking at Arsenal? Yeah, I know you may laugh because you think we don't win, but we know that we're expanding as a club. Our fan base is huge. The interest in Arsenal and engagement in Arsenal is absolutely massive. So yeah, I think we are going to be seen as the enemy for them for a long time. But let's see how we both rebuild next season, because I think there will be a level of rebuild.
Yeah, and I'm curious what you make of Slot, because they went out to Plymouth Argyle in the FA Cup. They lost to Newcastle in the League Cup final. They got knocked out in the round of 16 of the Champions League. And you can point to the Champions League and say they won every single game in the group stage. Well, not every game, I guess. They dropped points in the one at the end that Salah didn't start, where they rested everybody, which cost them a matchup with PSG. So there was that. I think it was PSV, actually, who they lost to. But you look at who they played, and it's Lille and Girona and AC Milan and Bologna. Was it Bologna? Bologna, RB Leipzig. They did beat Real Madrid at home. But my point is, Mohamed Salah got off to the most historic pace of a season of any individual in history. And through about January, they really rode the wave of his performances. When it came time to manage the competitions and manage the squad, and Salah got towards the end of the season and maybe slowed a tiny bit, I think we've seen a Liverpool that has been less dominant, and certainly now you could say not the best exits from the cup competitions. Look, there's no taking away a title from them, but there is a part of me that wonders if Slot is sort of guiding Klopp's team and Salah's great streak to a title, or if he did something that I'm missing that really deserves a lot more credit than I'm giving him, because next season, they're sticking with Salah and Van Dijk. They've made that commitment. Can he guide this team the same way again, or are we going to have to see a little bit more of what Slot's about, next season? I don't know what to make of that.
Yeah, so people are probably still trying to find out what Slot is about, So he has taken on Klopp's team, added Chiesa, barely kicked the ball. So it's Klopp's team, and he has made them a little bit more, everyone's saying the same thing, so sorry for boring analysis, right? But he's added a bit more control to their team. And I think he's made them better defensively. I think he's focused on that. And those numbers, I think they're better than last year's. I don't think they're too far off us, right? So defensively wise, and they've managed to score 15, 20 more goals than we have. And so I don't think they're that much different. I just think they have a few more gears in their team, to slow down on occasions and control games and maybe save energy. And I think in a schedule which is really, really tough, they've managed to get their goals and manage their games more effectively than we have, where we've been in close games. Maybe some of the fine margins have gone against us and late goals, etc. So I think they've done well in that regard. I have to be honest with you, I can see their issues, and their issues just haven't really been massively uncovered, So, for example, their defensive cover, central defensive cover, is not great. Joe Gomez has been out injured, and Kwanzaa's had a tough year, right? So we complain about, our central defenders, but we've got good central defense cover. We've been unfortunate with injuries in these areas. The fullbacks, Trent is a great player, but not a great defender. Conor Bradley plays well when it gets an injury. He's a different type of fullback. They lack stability at left back in Robertson and Tsimikas. So there's issues there defensively. They haven't really been massively uncovered. Could have managed, in the main, to stay fit with the key players. Had an issue with Alisson, but Kelleher is the best second goalkeeper in the league, so they can cover that situation, and he's done brilliant for them over many, many years.
Not Norberto Neto for you?
No. The point of the pre-season, I'm thinking, when they didn't get Zubimendi, I'm thinking, you're done. You're not going to win nothing. But they found Gravenberch. He's not a classic six, but he gave them some running power in there, and the game they play suits him. It's a bit of a track meet in there. McAllister is a real playmaker, and Slobosai's a box-to-box guy. So yeah, and their forwards we all know about, right? When someone falls out of form, someone falls into form. Salah has really covered up their forwards' lack of form. And they've won the league, and it happens. Sometimes it's your time. And when it's your time, it's your time. You just know. And I haven't felt that with Arsenal this year. I think we're as good as them, easy. I think our level's as high as them, and we can stretch to a higher level. But it's not our time. We're not complete, and you have to accept it. It's hard to accept it, but they've managed to do it, and I don't think they're great, but they've done it. The points are telling it. They're probably the same as they were last year, more or less. But we're not. We're behind. So it's on us, right? We haven't quite been able to hold them standards to the same level.
It'll be a really interesting one to watch. I believe there's an African Cup of Nations next season. You're going into mid-30s years with Salah and Van Dijk.
Would you have done
Trent's going to be gone.
Would you have renewed both of them?
It's tough, right? Because otherwise you lose them for free.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see how that's a positive, but it's so much money and wages going to them that it'll be interesting to see what they could do. For example, I think a player like Adam Wharton would be a terrifying addition for them, because I still think central midfield's an issue. I don't think Gravenberch is the right long-term six for them. I think they are a bit lightweight in midfield, so they got to solve that. Can they buy a £100 million midfielder if they're giving $500,000 a week to Salah and Van Dijk? I don't know. I don't know their finances enough, and I don't know what FSG will do enough. FSG has shown that they are committed to frugality with some of their other club holdings, like the Boston Red Sox. So I don't know. I would simply say that Slot has some issues to address this summer. Fullback, as you rightly point out, I think central midfield. They want to get a striker, and whether FSG gives him the money and whether he spends it intelligently, and we know at Liverpool they have a pretty good internal behind-the-scenes structure for doing that, it'll be really interesting, because I think there are a lot of Arsenal fans, myself included, that say, if Salah hits the age curve and Van Dijk hits the age curve and Trent is gone, wow, it's going to be a tough season for them. Well, if they get Isak, Adam Wharton, and Caracas, for example, it's not going to be a tough season for them. They could walk the league again, and I'm not saying that's what will happen, but given that we don't know what Slot's philosophy is around squad building and what the money will be there, I'm careful about predicting doom. But I do think this summer and next season will be a better reflection of Slot's philosophy about squad building and tactics than maybe this season has been. So we'll see. Yeah. Okay. Topic number 3, relevant to this conversation, is the Champions League a bigger prize than the Premier League?
Ooh. It depends. I think it depends. I think the Premier League has been quite stale this year because of the gaps at the bottom of the league and the gaps at the top of the league. There has been little jeopardy, right? So without the jeopardy, the competition is not as exciting to watch, right? So it's very, very simple. Teams are the money on offer in the Premier League is so great now that many teams are just trying to survive. And once they survive, they just turn off the jets, right? And start thinking about next year, right? So you're not getting the same quality of games end to end because of the nature of the season, with the three teams that are going down being so poor that many other teams, including Manchester United, Tottenham, West Ham, teams down there they should be ashamed of themselves, right? They generally should be ashamed of themselves with their budgets and the history of their clubs, etc., where they've done in the league. Now, both of those two of those teams could be in the Champions League next year, despite finishing in the bottom third of the league because of the nature of the competition that they're in. We don't know what's going to happen. So the league has really not offered many surprises, apart from the sort of the failure of those teams and maybe the rise of a Nottingham Forest, really, who have done exceptionally well. Bournemouth in patches, Brighton in patches, Fulham in patches have been nice to watch, right? And then you've got Arsenal, who are flattered to deceive on occasions, right? Not quite having enough power to get over the line. So what's that done to the league? It sort of killed the league for many Arsenal people. Then you go to a Champions League where it's fresh, it's new. You don't feel the biases with referees. You don't feel the same feelings that are washing over us with within the Premier League, where every time we put a foot forward, we're not allowed to enjoy it because the media comes out and tells us we're not allowed to enjoy it. And so they create an environment where the window of success is just, you've got to win the league or the Champions League. Well, we've only got to 2 semi-finals in the Champions League. So why have we got to win it? So that whole feeling, it annoys me. It does annoy me because it doesn't allow you to map progress. So for me, as an Arsenal man who was there in 1994 when we beat Parma, I was also there in 1995 when we ninth from the halfway line. I was there in 2006 and we lost to Barcelona. And if you ask me, Elliot, to be in a stadium where we do something for the first time in our history would be the biggest moment in my Arsenal watching life, without a doubt. And that's not to denigrate the league, because we all want to win the league, but none of us have seen Arsenal win the Champions League. And so that would be massive for the club, for its reach globally. It will lift it to a stratosphere that we were not thinking about a few years ago when we were playing, wondering if you're going to draw carrier bag. Seriously.
I got to level with you. I think social media has perverted the experience of watching the league in some respects too, and I even saw this among Liverpool fans. You just won the league and you're fighting Arsenal fans on social media about settling scores. And it's so cynical. The joy is soaked out of it because you experience it through the reaction of your rivals. Yeah. The Champions League has been a breath of fresh air in a way because it just feels very freed from that cynical sense of tribalism that is the best of football at times, but also the worst of it on social media at times. And so if you're a fan who gets to go home and away, I think it is purer for you anyway, because you get that experience. But if you're at a remove from the club and you experience it digitally, the digital experience of supporting Arsenal in the league has just been very unpleasant this season because of PGML, because of the narrative around Miles Lewis-Skelly, because of some of the way these rivalries have developed and become just very nasty and petty. But the Champions League hasn't had that. And so it's enjoyable. I think the fact that we've never done it makes the Champions League a bigger prize for us. To every club, it's a little different, though. Manchester City can't sell out their allocation to Wembley for an FA Cup semifinal. Palace would give a limb to win it. Okay? We're in a weird situation right now. We might end this season trophyless. That's a possibility. Yep. And look at a season where City win the FA Cup, Spurs or United win the Europa League, Chelsea win the Conference League. And those clubs, which I think have had very poor seasons by their standards, are raising a trophy at the end of it. And we have to get into that tedious nonsense again about, is it trophies or is it this? What we're trying to do is hard, and we've never, ever done it in our club's history. So to me, this is the biggest prize right now because, first of all, I think it puts you in a club we want to be in. It is a missing piece of our CV, of our pedigree. And I think globally for the exposure, I mean, it is the most watched sporting event in the world, the Champions League final. You win that, everybody knows you've done it. So for me, that's the bigger prize for Arsenal Football Club right now. I know Liverpool probably hurt from getting their one Premier League title ever with empty stadiums. So, it's good for them to have that connection to their fans. But I would still say for us, it's the Champions League. And to that extent, topic number 4, how would you line up for PSG? And Clive, I assume this is going to be the easiest one because you're just going to say the same as we did before, but I'm going to also force you to answer, how would you line up for PSG if, and I know it's unlikely, but if Merino and White couldn't start? So give me your lineup for PSG, but let's talk what if he doesn't feel Merino and White can start.
Well, I think Merino will start, but just for the sake of the question, I'll answer it properly. And if Merino starts, Trossard will come in because he's next man up, and we'll do our thing in midfield and we'll move around, rotate, blah, blah, blah. So easy work there. If Merino didn't start, and who else you said? White, did you say, Elliot? Did you say?
Yeah, because the reason is the reason I threw that in there is if there's no Merino or White, now you have some interesting choices to make in the back line in the midfield.
So it's very simple, right? So it doesn't seem to me that Calafiori's fit, not quite, so he's out of the equation. And so next man up is Zinchenko, isn't he, really? He just is. And you just put him into midfield, you double six it, and go that way.
So you don't go Zinchenko left back and Miles Lewis-Skelly in midfield. You'd go Miles Lewis-Skelly stays at left back and Zinchenko comes into midfield. Okay.
Because the key for PSG is their wide men are pretty good. Let's not mess about. Their wide men are pretty good. And our best one-on-one players who are fit are Miles and Timber. Simple. And you need that stability in your team. You need to be able, if you want to push people forward, you need the ability to be comfortable one-on-one at the back. And that's what we do. And so it's very important that we do that. And so when we are left one-on-one with those two guys, I feel pretty confident they can look after their men. They can move side to side. They can travel laterally. They go in really quickly. They're aggressive, but also take you backwards once they've won the ball. And so they force you to do work two ways. Now, PSG do work a lot harder than Madrid's forward line. So I would then think about the midfield that PSG play. They're going to play João Neves. They're going to play, I never remember the tall guy's name, the Spanish guy. Come on, who's the other guy? Always forget him.
Ruiz?
Yeah, they're going to play him, and they're going to play Vitinha, right? And they're quite a technical midfield. They can get around the pitch. They're not too bad. They're not too collision heavy. They do their work. So Zinchenko can play in there, no problem. It becomes a technical game, how you receive it, how you move it. So he'd be my option. I really do think sometimes you have to bring your thing to a game. And I would have loved to be at full strength in midfield with Merino up front, because I think physicality is the way to beat them. To really challenge them in that area of the pitch, push them back, and to take them from crosses. I don't think they're good at that. We heard you, Julian, last week, and it's not hard to see watching the Villa game what they're not so good at. You see what Unai tried to do by playing Onana in midfield, 6'5". He wasn't doing that for fun, was he? He was doing that because he wanted to get them in the air. He knew their weakness. He knew their goalkeeper didn't fancy it. And so it's a shame that we haven't got the ability to get Rice a bit further forward more, to really get into them physically. But you know what, Elliot? There's also the flip side to this. We get a chance to have a look at them and be secure. This is a 2-game tie. To have a look at how they move, to have the defensive awareness of Rice deeper, and maybe be a bit more conservative in this game. Maybe don't build up so much, knowing they're going to press, and clip it a little bit to wide men, and go from there and turn them around and see what they're like. Maybe that's just what we do. Rice has got a very good switch on him. So, yes, he may not be able to receive it like Thomas Partey, though he can pass really, really well. But there's a disguised passing of Thomas Partey that's just different levels. So why not? But Rice can really ping it, mate. He can go from side to side in no time at all. So maybe you just add that layer to your game. So yeah, we get a chance to have a look at them while being secure. So I'm all for that, because this is 180 minutes, not 90.
Well, that leads us into topic 5. What are your expectations for the first leg? And I will say, watching Barcelona play, and this, I'm going to save a comment for another question that's going to come up, but I'll say this. Watching Barcelona play Real Madrid in the Copa del Rey final, Barca were all over them in the first half. But when you get past Barcelona's press, they don't offer a lot of resistance, and you can get running at them pretty easily. And I think PSG do some of the same kinds of things with how they press and push their fullbacks up. when we spoke with Julian Laurent, you can listen to that episode, which was last week. He also just said something that we know, which is PSG are very poor on set pieces, and they lost domestically. They lost their invincible status on Friday against Nice, and Nice took advantage of them on set pieces. I think Donnarumma got like a 4.8 rating on FOTMob or something that was going around, doing the round. So I wonder about this because we have the highest defensive line in our league. PSG have one of the highest defensive lines in their league. We know we're good at set pieces. How do you see us trying to exploit their weaknesses in the first leg to get a lead to take back to Paris?
I think the key for me in this game is controlling their strengths. Now, the one thing that we are quite well educated on as Arsenal fans is we're quite comfortable when we see ourselves off the ball, and we're quite comfortable when we see ourselves on the ball. When the other team's got the ball, we don't start screaming at the team, say, get after it, blah, 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 because we know that we're organised. And we just sit there and go, yeah, all right, we're going to get it back soon. And when we get it back, we're going to go. Right? So we're quite comfortable. We've grown with these tactics. We've grown with them. We know our shape. We know where we can stand, do whatever you like. We go low, we go mid, we can press high if we want to. We can clip it, we can go wide, we can go down the centre, we can play through, we can go around. We can do all the games, we can do everything you need. It's just how quickly we need to adapt to what they're doing to us. That's the key in this game, adapting to what they do. Right? So get comfortable with it. I think the key thing while we beat Madrid, the key thing while the girls beat Lyon, is what you do in both boxes. And what we think back to Bayern last year, we were fragile in our own box and we didn't execute in their box. What do we do against Madrid? We were brilliant in our own box and we mashed them when we got near their box. We took them to pieces, right? We had shots on goal, really ruthless, really hit their target. We affected their aura, affected their confidence. I think the most important thing is we create good chances, but we make them really feel our presence offensively. Make them realize that we can get them in different ways. I think that's important. They're used to having the ball. And I heard you talking to Julian, Elliot, and it dawned on me that we may not have all the possession, but we didn't have all the possession in Madrid. And I wasn't bothered. I didn't feel stressed, so it's about
we didn't have all the possession the first time we played them, by the way, when we beat them at home. They had 60% of the ball in that game.
Exactly. And again, I sat there nice and relaxed watching that game, knowing that when we need to dominate the duels, when we needed to dominate them, we could, and we did. And I think that's the key thing. And this is what we have. We have this organisation. We have the ability to flip into shape really, really quickly, defensively and offensively. But what we really have, we have the ability to win the ball. And when you win the ball, then you can do things with it again, unstructured defenses. And I don't think Pacho and Marquinhos are good enough to go with our travelling wingers. I just don't think they are. Right? So, and of course, when they get into a situation, they have to execute. And you know what, mate? Sneaky one for Trossard. He's somebody that I struggle to read on occasions. I don't know where he's going to play well. I don't know what he's going to do sometimes. I hate when he turns towards his own goal and tries to pass backwards. It just makes my heart go.
Yep.
Right? And but he does the unexpected. And right now, Elliot, I know he's going to play. I don't know where he's going to play. I don't know what side he's going to stand. I don't know if he fancies going long. I don't know if he fancies coming short. I don't know what wing he's going to fancy. I don't know. And I've watched him for 2 years and I don't know. And if I don't know, they don't know. So that's what you want. You want these wild cards, And sometimes, much like in the league, I can say, you know what, it's not your time. And sometimes I look at this group of players and say, there's a few of them with petrol in the tank. Saka's got petrol because he's been injured. Martinelli's got it. Trossard's got it. Merino's got it. They're not overplayed. When we went to Munich, all our players were overplayed. So Rice had a slow start to the season. He's got petrol in the tank. Odegaard's got a bit to do. But, can he find some petrol in the tank? Kivior, he's thinking, this is great, I'm playing. So, Miles, he's fairly fresh. So we're not the fatigued team. We've got growth potential and energy. And now we're focused on one competition. We look more serious, with a real edge, and so, Munich, we went there with a really strong team, but they were fatigued. they were half the players they are right now. So yeah, let's see how we go.
2 seasons ago at the Etihad, they just rope-a-doped us. We were a ferocious pressing side. Granted, we had, Rob Holding playing defense, but they just went over it. They went long. They said, that's fine. You have the ball. You come at us. You engage your press. We go over it. You can't run with us. I would rope-a-dope this Paris team. They're young. They're going to be excited. We haven't been at this level, but you know what? Neither have they. They're actually probably a little younger, a little greener than we are in some respects. And their blood's going to be pumping. Hakimi and Mendes are going to want to be running up the pitch, and they're going to want to engage that press. And you know what? I'd just let them do it, and I'd go over it. And I'd go over it to Merino and let him first time it to Martinelli, or let Raya use that long throw out to Nelly or whoever it is, and just
get to their
first
back
of all,
line
have
quickly.
Hakimi and Mendes doing, wind sprints up and down the touchline until they can't breathe anymore, and see if they have the nous and the composure and the intelligence to modify or modulate that pressing and that energy. Because if they don't, I think we can just get in behind them and run them to pieces. So I don't know, Clive. There's a part of me that thinks, forget your pride. They're going to try to do their thing at 1,000 miles an hour. Fine by me. Let them do it and use their strength as a weakness, Yeah. And that might be what I would try.
I don't disagree with that. I think my impression of PSG when they came to Emirates this year was they look really good, but they look young. Yeah, and it really struck me how young they looked. And they look a little bit older now, but again, against Liverpool in their home game, they were outstanding. But they reached 65 minutes and they've done a Muhammad Ali, George Foreman. They ran out of juice, right? And Liverpool nicked it late on, right? So that wasn't good. In the away game, I thought they were good, and then Liverpool just ran into them a little bit, didn't take their chances. But again, it's a bad matchup on my side of things. Against Villa, I thought they were excellent in some of those games, but I think Unai does what Unai does. He scared himself behind the settee, didn't play him, but we're going to play him. We're not going to sit back and think a 1-goal defeat is good enough. No, we're going to play him. And so yeah, I agree with you there. I think we just have to see what they're doing. That's the key. And this is where Arsenal are good. This is where Martin Odegaard is really good. And people don't like having him at the moment. I totally understand it. That's absolutely fine. But he sees what the other team is doing, and he's the one that calls the shape changes. He's the one that calls it. And let's see what they do and how we adjust. And when they change, then how quickly we adjust back. That is the key to modern football. When I watch it now, I'm trying to see these adjustments, see if I can stay with the coaches at the elite level. I can't because I'm getting excited and I'm talking. But basically, that's what the players are there for. But Elliot, the game plan for PSG that you sort of outlined is a sort of game plan that if the players were coaching themselves would do, because it fits their abilities. But their manager is decent. Luis Enrique is a decent manager, and he's probably thinking, I wonder. I really like him. Yeah, I liked him as a player as well. He was one of my favourite players when I was growing up. So, really good player, really good manager, and he would have watched Arsenal like we've watched them. And so there will be a little bit of jabbing each other, see what we're going to do. And if they're smart, they're not going to push both fullbacks on. They're going to keep one in and defending the free. If they push both fullbacks on at the Emirates, mate, they're dumb. They'll do exactly what we did against Man City years ago, as you stated.
Yeah, and the only thing I would say is I sort of would agree with you, except I look at how they played Villa when they had the tie. And they gave Villa a path back into it because Villa can run through you. They've got Morgan Rodgers, right? They've got guys that can chew up the pitch and turn turnovers into transition opportunities running at you. And PSG had that tie one. All they had to do was sit back and frustrate them, and instead they gave them that space to run into. So maybe
they disrespected
maybe he learned from that. No, they did. They did. I don't think they'll do that to us. But the other reason I think I would play long, just as a final point on this, is they press very well. They're very good at it. And the guy that I'd want, if I really wanted to try to play through the press and really be cute, would be Thomas Partey. He is our most press-resistant midfielder in terms of his ability to receive on the half turn, face up the pitch in the face of pressure, and distribute quickly, accurately between the lines. Rice obviously is a brilliant midfielder. Rice is our best midfielder. But if you were going to say to me, is Rice great from the deepest midfield position, turning into pressure and distributing quickly? It's not as strong for him as it is for Partey. So I think I'd want to get them running back at their goal as quickly as we can. So we'll see how that goes. There'll be an instant reaction on that, by the way, obviously at full time tomorrow with Clive's thoughts from the ground. Phil, Paul, and myself. It'll be live stream for patrons. So would love for you to join us for that. But I think we got to talk Bukayo Saka. That's what I have as number 6 on the list here. But I'll just mention Shopify quickly before I do that, because it would be really weird not to mention a brand at this point in the episode. So this is the only one you're going to hear about today, so bear with me. But Shopify is the e-commerce platform to use if you want to have a professional looking site. If you've got a business and founded in 2025 sounds good to you, right? Established in 2025, nice ring to it. Shopify is the way to go. I'll just tell you a couple super quick things about Shopify. First of all, they integrate with the social media platforms. You can't really have an e-commerce business if you don't sell on social media now. If you're scrolling through your reels on Instagram, you're just constantly seeing those ads. How do you get it to look like you have a native Instagram store? You don't have to know that, because Shopify just does that for you. You ever on a website and you're in the cart and it says, oh, people who buy this also buy that. Or, oh, it looks like you left something in your cart. Do you want to check out? Those are the things a professional website has to have. I don't know how to do that. Shopify does that. Your taxes, your shipping, Shopify does that. You just know the pictures and the description and the price, and it does the rest. Get your business off the ground. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/ArsenalVision, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/ArsenalVision to start selling with Shopify today. That's shopify.com/ArsenalVision. Do it now, Clive.
Indeed.
That was easy. That was easy. Can't complain about that one. That one flew. So, Clive, it's time to talk topic number 6. And topic number 6 is very simple. Is this Bukayo Saka's moment? As it was for Rice against Madrid, as it has been for Salah in the league. Rice had his big moment in the, not that Saka wasn't brilliant, by the way, in the quarterfinal, but Rice obviously had his big moment. Salah has been the guy who lifted Liverpool to the league. There's rumors that we've agreed a new contract with Saka. I do think he is ready to take his place among the greats in world football. I think he's done that already, but is everybody aware of it? I think Bukayo Saka has a chance to be the best player in this tie. And there are good ones all across the board. Dembele's brilliant. Rice on our side, obviously. Both Doué and Kvaratskhelia. But is this Bukayo Saka's moment, Clive? Nuno Mendes has been talking about he's the toughest matchup he faces. He's going to face him again. And I think this is a big, big tie for Bukayo.
Yeah, just watch, for those of you, just watch the first PSG home game, and people can say that they were different. Well, Saka just was very good against him. And Nuno Mendes did well against Salah, a Salah that was fading at that time of the season. Mm-hmm. He'd already done his work to win his club the league. And, you know, Salah's an interesting player, right? He's somebody you think he's not that quick, but he's quick. He doesn't really trick you, but he can trick you. And then he can get his shots off, right? And scores a million goals. And you think, well, he's all right. But I thought Mendes really managed him really well. You know, really got under him quickly, was tight. When Salah wasn't receiving good service, but when he did receive the ball, he was all over him. Whereas Saka's different, right? If you get all over him, then come to the gym with him, mate. Come to the gym with me. We'll just see how we go, shall we? And he can go off the ball, he can go on the outside and go on the inside. He's a problem. He's got as many muscles. He's a real problem for him. And in that PSG home game, there's some clips out there which show very clearly how well Saka did against him, you know, very clearly. And so I have less fears because I've got those clips in my mind. And I do think that injury killed our league season. But he is now sitting, as I said earlier, that he has got energy, you know, and in that Real Madrid game, he was tip top, mate. And he is not looking fatigued. And so his moment is coming. And in football, you never can tell when it arrives, but you're looking at it, and I'm looking at the fitness and the health of Touchwood of those two wingers. I'm thinking, I would want that, you know, for Arsenal to be who I want them to be. We're a team that relies very much on our wide men. Much like PSG, there's a lot of similarities there in the models and how we go around things, false nines, etc. There's a lot of similarities. We just have a few more, you know, a few more dual experts maybe, and they have some real technical movers, you know. So yeah, but we've got muscles at fullback, you know, to manage their technical speedsters, right? So it's going to be such an interesting matchup. But I do think, to go back to your original point, this kid has something special. And we've seen it time and time again, and we're seeing it again now. So I'm hopeful.
Yeah, I just think he made it back to play in the Real Madrid tie. but you could see his game coming back to its level over that couple of weeks. I mean, he was not fully fit when that tie started, and he was still brilliant. His corner kicks are going to be crucial. His outball and his ability to get isolated 1v1 against Mendes is going to be crucial. His, I think, strength on the ball, especially the way they press, absolutely critical. But for me, these stages of elite competition, I don't think it's just about tactics or quality, because everyone's tactics are pretty good at this stage. These managers are all good. Inter have great tactics. Barcelona have great tactics. We do. PSG do. We all have good players. But can there be one player who elevates, one player who makes the tie theirs? And, Rice was the difference maker in the first tie, although I think there were heroes all over the pitch for us. I think it could be Bukayo's moment. I really feel like the way his game is rounding into shape. We talked about it in was it the Ipswich game, where we said he didn't get the goals and the assists, but he was unstoppable. And it was a sliver away from being a 2 or 3 goal, 2 or 3 assist kind of game, including one that Martin Odegaard took from him. So I have an excitement about Bukayo, and boy, wouldn't it be incredible for him to be the star of this tie as the news of his new contract is swirling with everything that's happening, and just his big moment on the big stage. Obviously, the biggest moment then would be a final, but we're not there yet. We'll have to see. I think a big moment coming for Saka. Topic number 7. What has this Champions League run taught us about prioritizing competitions? I will point out that we dropped points in the league in our game before this. PSG lost their invincible status to Nice. Inter lost, and probably lost, the Serie A title chance with it going into this tie. We saw last season that the Bayern Munich tie probably cost us a title because of the Villa game between it. And oh, by the way, if Manchester City had won their penalty shootout with Real Madrid, they probably dropped some points on the run and were champions last season. Liverpool have won the title at a canter, but along the way have dropped out of the Champions League, lost the League Cup final, in embarrassing fashion crashed out of the FA Cup, trying to manage their way through it. And we have tried to do things, for example, like compete in all the competitions, which is creditable, but then you look at the 2-leg League Cup semifinal in January, for fuck's sake, and who knows what that cost us. So I'm wondering if this Champions League run, where we've finally had a chance under Mikel to rotate and manage our squad around this competition, and now we're in the semifinal, has this taught us, you, the club, anything about prioritizing competitions in modern football?
Well, first things first, we need a better squad, because people are not going to accept us throwing competitions. Me personally, mate, I'll throw the League Cup straight away.
Yep, same.
I don't
Arsene
care.
Wenger had that one right. From day one, he had that one right.
I don't care, because the competition comes into January now, and the Champions League is now in January. So why would you do that to yourself again? Right? So so squad sizes are restricted a lot more now, and also every team has its own sort of deadwood issues, people on the way out, and so we're actually not that high on numbers, Elliot, at the moment. It feels a little bit low still, with some players that are not really effective and some players who are injured, and so I would throw that competition straight away. I like the Champions League format-ish, but I'm not sure if you needed the extra 2 games, but the format I can live with, but now that's there, League Cup, not interested. FA Cup, it's got a lot of historical value, right? So, but it's tough, right? For Palace at the weekend, fantastic for them. But you look at our accounts last year, I think it says £92 million was made for the Champions League last season. And that's going to go up this season, obviously. If you win the FA Cup, I believe the prize money is £2 million for winning the FA Cup. And so people make decisions, right? They make decisions based on finances. And it's a shame. Forest lost at the weekend, but if they get in the Champions League, that's a successful season for them, massively so. And it's a shame when people are going to say, but you've got to win a trophy, that's what it's all about. And yeah, I hear you, I do. But then we're going to spend the whole summer talking about what players we want to sign. How do you think that gets paid for? Not by winning the FA Cup. It gets paid for by your European involvement. And it's a harsh reality of the modern game. Very much is. So for me, we just have to, as a football club, we have not been able to manage 2 competitions simultaneously. for as long as I can remember, really, really well. And I said to you the other day, Elliot, I think it's the next phase of what we do. We were linked to a centre-back at Bournemouth, Dean Huijsen, right? And good player, 19, 20, 6'5", ball-playing centre-back. Centre-backs have the ball now more than any other players in the team. Important part of your build-up, important part of what you want to do. Premier League ready, 50 million quid. I can hear people saying, but what about Gabriel and Saliba? What about them? Well, we need to get to that stage where they can sit down for maybe 2 weeks, or a week either side of a national break. One of them can sit, and if we can get to that stage, then we can do 2 competitions, then we can do 3 competitions. And we won't get to that level unless we are prepared to make those signings to really make people feel uncomfortable and really get to that stage where we can rotate. Jakob Kiwior has shown us maybe that what can happen if you trust someone a little bit longer over a period of time. But I wasn't calling for that when Gabriel was fit, the best centre-back in the league. None of us were. So we have to prepare to do that on occasions to make sure we have more effective players who are ready and able to come in. So, and I believe that later in the season, the team selects itself. We all know what the team's going to be now because it's crunch time, so there's no debate anymore. That's what generally happens in the season. So lessons to be learned. A couple of years ago, we struggled with a Winter World Cup. Then we came back. We've had the Champions League expansion this year. It hasn't felt normal for a while, but we have lessons to learn, and that involves squad depth. And we prepared for this summer, so let's spend the money.
Yeah, I think this is a complicated one because even when you have squad depth, there are certain players that if you lose them, you can't replace them. However deep you are. Bukayo Saka falls in that category, obviously. And yet, when you look around the big clubs all over Europe, the best players play 55 games a season. They just do. But I think you're right. The League Cup has to just be binned. It just does. The reality is, if you are lucky enough to make the semifinal, you've earned yourself a 2-legged tie, probably against a big rival. So you don't want to get humiliated by a big rival, which leads you to be more likely to play a strong team in those 2 legs at a time when now you still have Champions League and you're about to enter the knockout phase of the Champions League soon after, and there's no break in sight. And oh, by the way, I think I am right in saying it's African Cup of Nations coming around again.
I believe so, yes. Next January, I think, yeah.
And so, you're talking about squads that are even more depleted. I think you got to chuck that cup. And Newcastle wouldn't trade anything for that cup. But, there's a part of me that wonders if Newcastle were sitting 6th right now and they could hand that cup back and make the champ. Well, they're different because they hadn't won a trophy in so long.
Yeah,
so
you have to set that aside. They should make the Champions League as well. They should make that.
They will make the Champions League, so it's fine. Look, I don't want to deny anyone who says, mate, I'm in it for the great day out at a cup final, and I don't care what cup final it is. But they're going to keep inventing cups. At what point do you have to decide which ones you care about? Do you care about the FIFA Club World Cup?
Well, we may be in that soon.
Emirates Cup?
And I wonder how we're going to feel about it. And Man City have had a tough year injury-wise. They'll probably use that competition.
They got to go play that.
Fit, right? They'll probably use that competition to get him back. So I feel for them. But they're going to get 50 million that they can use to rebuild to go and fight us. Right? So, they already beat us on Marmouche, and they can do that because of what they've done in the past, right? So, it's a problem, right? But for me, Elliot, the next phase of our squad is clear. What we need to do, and if we do that, we can be a bit more serious about 2 competitions, definitely.
I can only say what I feel, and this is what I feel. For the next few years anyway, the only thing I care about is winning a Premier League or a Champions League. It's the only thing I care about. Nothing else is going to make me feel the Arteta project was a success. Nothing else is going to make me feel that players like Bukayo and Declan Rice and Gabby and Saliba won what they should have won. So that's what I care about. And if we have to make some business decisions around how we get there, I'm going to probably be okay with it because that's where we're going to measure our success. Okay, topic number 8, as we start to wrap up here a little bit, but I think it's a big one. Has Odegaard's form made attacking midfield a priority this summer? I want to be clear. I still think there's a very, very, very high likelihood that what we're seeing with Martin Odegaard, final third especially, is a byproduct of issues from the injury and other issues he may be dealing with that haven't been recovered yet. And we could see a Martin Odegaard next season that looks like what we roughly expect to see. But it is a season where, from an assist and goal standpoint, from a shooting standpoint, from a shot creation standpoint, he's not at the level that we have associated with him. And a team needs a guy in midfield who specializes in doing those things. I believe that. Even if we get a lot of that from players like Bukayo and stuff. So I wonder if you think his form has made the club have to think about strengthening those qualities in the squad, maybe with an attacking midfielder.
Yeah, I'm not the best for this question because I'm not a fan of number 10s, as you know, but I prefer hardworking creative 8s. I don't like this single number 10 concept in my mind. I've got to be honest and tell you what my truth. I struggle to see those players in the same way, their value. But when we don't score goals or create goals, then I see their value. Do you know what I mean?
Can I ask you a question? Do you regard like a De Bruyne or a Bruno Fernandes? Do you regard them as 10s or 8s? I mean, they're deployed as 8s.
I think they're more 8s. I think they're more 8s.
But they have that final third.
Yeah, but did. A 10 for me was an Ozil, like a 10.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's never coming back.
Yeah. And I for all his superb talents, we have to carry him on occasions, right? So so I think obviously Ethan was going to be that player a little bit, shall we say. Do we need a right-footed version of that player? That's what's in my mind, somebody who plays on the left-hand side but with a right foot, bit more creative, right? So but the way we play, we sort of create from the wings, from wide areas. So we may end up with a pretty good wide forward coming in that will be part of our creative side of things. And also, I know people not always having this player, but, Kai Havertz is a form of second striker 10, and that area becomes different for certain games. And I think he will play that position a lot more next season, potentially. I also feel that at this moment in time, he's still our number one centre forward. And when someone comes in as a centre forward, which we will definitely get, but Kai's more of a false 9, 9.5. I think we're going to get a true 9. So there's potential to play together or sit one down, for example. I'm fine with that. So yeah, I'm interested if we get someone young on the left-hand side with a right foot. I think we've got a lot of lefties coming through in the club, a lot of lefty playmakers, but have we got a righty creative player? And I think that could be the next phase for our attacking evolution. One of the phases we need to think about. And personally, Elliot, I say those words because squad construct-wise, it's missing. I could live without it. I'd rather have really devastating wingers and rotate them on a personal point of view and have a centre forward and rotate those centre forwards around. That's what I would do, and I would use our youth player in Ethan to make sure there was room for him to take those creative positions. Because I think once he settles down, his body settles down, I think he's going to be a major player. I mean, look at the goals he scored this season.
Yeah,
and we're just hand waving that. That's like incredible.
Well, I'm not.
Yeah, or maybe I am in my mind. We think,
we're gonna. It's special,
but it's incredibly special, and he's a child, mate. He's a child who's doing that.
You look at young players like Rico Lewis scoring important goals in the FA Cup, and Rico Lewis is 3 years older than Ethan Nwaneri, right? Yeah. And he's considered a bright young talent, and he is one, by the way. That's not my point.
He is.
Well, so because here's the problem for me. I think there are 2 problems Arsenal have to solve, right? We have to obviously get that striker. We need to add just strength and depth. I don't think Arsenal have very far to go to be able to live with the best teams in the world. We have shown over the last couple of seasons we can beat City and we can beat Liverpool and we can beat Real Madrid, right? And I think we're very close. Where this team still has work to do, I think, is volume of chances created and volume of goals scored from open play against weaker teams that are going to be organized and bunker a bit. And that's when I look at a player like Acuna, an Eze, a Ryan Cherky, or whoever you want to look around the world and see those players. Mm-hmm. And then you'll get people saying, they're passengers, mate. They don't press. They don't. And I sort of think, I get it. You're very McKell-pilled. Fair enough. So am I. But there are games where you want Kai at 8 or Merino at 8 or Rice at 8. And there are games where you can plug Rice at 6, play a Cunha and Odegaard, and tell Rice, hey, just clean anything up if they get past these guys. And then you just go push that team back. And now you have that one extra player who can pick a brilliant goal out of nothing, an Eze who can drip a little magic on it, a Ryan Cherky. Well, Cherky's with all these guys, you can bring up their off-pitch or attitude issues. I don't want to get into that perspective because who knows? But you get my point, Clive, right? Which is, would it kill us to have another player with that little bit of magic in the final third for the games that have been our clear undoing domestically over the last couple of seasons, like Fulham, home and away?
Yeah, you can add a Xavi Simons to that list as well.
Yep.
Maybe the righty I was sort of thinking about. We were looking at Sevilla Naipan, weren't we? It looks like he's going to go to Villa. That's sort of a righty from that side of the left-hand side of the pitch. So, yeah, there are players out there. I'm not going to argue with that because I sat here on this podcast and said many times that have we evolved our attack enough? You can't say those words and then just try to cut and paste on top of what we already have, the same type of players, because we're not going to evolve, are we? We have to show a different face, right? So different faces are really, really key. So when you look at the construct of the squad, we are missing a right-footed, in my opinion, right-footed, creative midfielder. So can we carry that player in the squad, given to what we're going to do, potentially at number 6, for example, and Declan Rice's absolutely world-class ascension as that left-hand sided number 8 player, box to box, where he's gone to a new level, so should we be taking him out, and so but there are days when we maybe can and sit him down. If you want to win 2 trophies, and the bigger trophies we want to win, he can't play 60 games, so how we attack those games is important. I do think players is one thing, construct those players and profile those players is another thing. But having the emotional and mental capacity to manage games every 3 days consistently is something we still have to do. And we have to be honest. We're close, we're real close. What we've learned this year is our top level, our top game is as good as anybody else's in the world. And those words coming out of my mouth, I never thought I'd ever utter. But it's true. We can stretch to a really high level. But we need to be able to do this consistently over a longer period. And that's where the depth and different profiles come in.
Yeah, and to see us do it, by the way, without either of our strikers fit and our best center back, according to Mikel, it shows that our game model is elite and that we do have elite talent. I think the other point I'd just make, by the way, is it might be nice to have Odegaard and Cunha, or Odegaard and Eze, or Odegaard and Cherky, and Simmons, like any of those guys against these low block teams. But the other point is, and we saw this earlier this season, if Odegaard is out for a period of time, the word I'd use for the midfield is functional. You wind up with what feels like a very functional team. I mean, is Zubamendi, Rice, and Merino a team that can go out physical teams, a midfield? Sure. Is it a midfield that's going to pick a lot of locks or solve a lot of problems against the low block? I'm not sure. So I think it is an area that we should be looking at, but it leads to question number 9. How can Ethan take his next step forward? Ethan has proven he has the talent to play at this level, even if it's developing and it's a little stop-start, which for a 17/18-year-old is expected. I mean, what's expected from a 17/18-year-old is they're not even playing at all, let alone potentially breaking the record for goals scored by a player of that age. But I do wonder how he takes his next step forward. Is it rotational with Odegaard and Saka again next season? Is there a role you see him stepping into with more prominence next season? How do we help encourage Ethan along in his progression?
Yeah, sometimes you just got to be patient. It's quite clear that his minutes are being restricted because he's just growing into his body. It's quite clear to me, right? From being a father of a young man, of a son who went through those growing pains and had to shin splints and had the Oscar slappers and had all those things where he had to have restricted minutes on the pitch because he just couldn't, barely put his feet on the ground. These things happen because you're going through growing pains. Miles has already grown. Look at him, right? He's gone through that, right? So there's no issues there with him. And even behind. And when he does go through that, you're going to see the true player. We're going to see who he really is physically. And I can't wait to see that. And while he's developing, he's still stuck 10 goals in someone else's net this season, wherever it is. So I think he's going to be an interior Elliot, if I'm honest with you. But at this age, he can play on the outside. It's just no problem. He can play on the outside and still score. And so at this moment in time, it's about having minutes in adults football, getting his body more robust, learning how to give him the ball in the right way so he can use his real talents, which is last action stuff, last pass, last cross, last shot. And he is a serious man. He wants to score. So that mentality, we shouldn't be taking that away and coaching that away. Beat your men, get your shots, take people on, receive it on the run, make things happen, and try to really encourage that. We're going to see PSG versus Arsenal with two false nines. One was Dembele, who's really a winger, that tearaway winger who can play both sides and 2-footed. And one's Trossard, 5'9" player. Why can't Ethan be that player one day for us? And quite easily. And so football's changing now. So the contract of what a player used to be, and number 9s, etc. Get on the pitch, be in the right wavelength, have the right mentality on and off the ball. What you're going to do when the ball comes to your feet? What can you do for me? I mean, he has that. He really does.
And this is where I think the earlier question about prioritizing competition comes in to the people that demand an Ethan Nwaneri have a path to success at Arsenal, which is he should start every single League Cup game next season. He should start the early rounds of the FA Cup. He should play the home games against the weaker league phase teams in the Champions League. You do that right there, and by the time you hit January, you've probably given him 8 starts or so. So it's
things change in football.
It's chance.
Why does Odegaard have to play 95 minutes every game? He doesn't have to. Right, so we can develop in that situation. A year ago, could you imagine an Arsenal team going to a Champions League semi-final without Ben White playing? He's not playing, right? Miles
Lewis-Skelly starting at left back, and no one can unseat him there.
Miles is the king at the moment. He might hit a bit of fatigue, hit a wall for the first time in his career, and suddenly has a bit of bad form, and we take him out, and someone else is doing the job. Yeah, it's no problem. It's no problem. They're at the level. And they're about to get contracts to say you're at the level and you're staying here, and we're going to make sure you play in this group. So, and that's the key. They haven't got to play every single week. We don't want them to. We have responsibility for their careers. We need them to have time out. But right now we're playing PSG and they got some sharp wingers, and I want Miles to tear through them and Timber, and I'm pretty confident they're going to be fine.
Yeah. Well, we will see about that. We're up to number 10. The end of the pod.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been thinking about this because there were debates online last night about which striker we should go for. Gyökeres had 4 goals against Boavista, a club that's entire wage bill, by the way, is less than what we pay Jakub Kivior a year. So it's, it's hard to know. You know what I mean? It's hard. You see him score 4 goals. You go, that's the guy, go get him. How do you evaluate it? There's a lot of debate, and I see both sides of it. We've scouted him, by the way, a lot. One thing I will say, if you want to check out our scouting video, we did a scouting video where we only watched him in the Champions League and against the top 2 in Portugal, Benfica and Porto, which I thought was valuable, right, to see how he plays at a higher level. And I was still impressed by him. But should Arsenal emphasize buying from inside the Premier League? As I look around right now at the talent in the Premier League, whether it's an Adam Morton or a Howson or a Cunha, an Eze, a Mateta, these players in the Premier League, there is so much talent all over the world. And I am not going to sit here and pretend the Premier League talent's better than the other talent. What I will say is the error bars around those transfers are probably smaller. Manchester United bought 2 young, talented strikers in consecutive summers and got it wrong both times. There were people that liked those players. Højlund and Xerxes, especially Højlund. And it hasn't worked out. Antony didn't work out, right? You look at United, they are a clinic in how to get it wrong buying outside the league. What did Alex Ferguson used to do when he was on the precipice of big things? He'd buy the best Premier League player. We did that with Declan Rice, by the way, and look at what it's done for us. It's put us right on the brink of some major things. I just wonder if now that we're really in our winning window and we feel really close, do we want those small error bars around a Premier League transfer? Can we still speculate on some of the talent around the world? How do you think about what we should emphasize at this stage of the project and whether that Premier League talent is where we should be looking?
I think I'm not. I can find faults with any player. We all can, right? If you look at them long enough, you can find a fault. Cunha, really
I'm quite
talented.
good at it.
Cunha's a really talented player. He's had mentality issues from Atletico Madrid days, right? They were pleased to see him off, mate. And at Wolves, he's not exactly a church mouse, right? Is he? He's had a few issues, right? So I'm not sure if that fits in the club. Talent-wise, the ball lands at his feet. Well, good player, particularly as a left 10. I can see him at Man United, can't you? In one of the two behind the striker, you can see it, right? So for me, I'm not sure about him because of those things. I think with Arsenal, I think we need a true 9, because we haven't got one. So why would you not have that profile in the club? So I like Gyökeres. Because I've seen Gyökeres. We've both seen him, and I felt his presence. I felt his speed. He kicks the ball hard with both feet. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I'm not going to.
Don't really have anyone who does it, so take it.
What? How many times do you watch Harry Kane? He shifts and shoots. Mate, he's not that good, but he shifts, shoots between legs, bottom corner. Thank you very much. Jog back to the halfway line. He just kicks the ball incredibly hard off both feet. And so I'm not going to say that's a bad thing. And my choice was always Sesko, and the reason why, but it's more Sesko last season, because I thought the number was really good, 42 mil. Remember the release clause back then? And I always liked Kaiser centre forward, so I wanted somebody else to take some kilometres off of him, and while he could develop in the quiet right behind his sort of umbrella sort of thing. But now the situation's changed, and I'm not sure Arsenal fans are ready to see Sesko stepping on the ball by the touchline and going out for a throw. I'm not sure we're quite ready for that. You know what I mean? We're going to expect someone to do the business. The reason why I like him is I think he provides things whether teams are going to push us back, he provides the exit. And when teams drop into their box, he provides something that no one can stop. In the air in particular, he's incredible, and his athleticism is incredible. So I quite like that sort of player. But Gyökeres could be the one that provides the most energy, the most pressing, the most work rate, the most power. And he could be the one that teams may have to change the most for. And I quite like that idea too. The key for me is, well, apart from the guy Isak, who we'd all like, right? So the key for me is we need a centre forward in Arsenal Football Club. We haven't got one. And so you can decide who plays what. You can decide who plays where. You can decide who partners in. You can decide who plays out wide. Arsenal Football Club needs a number 9 in its squad. They have to play every week, but we need number 9 in our squad. Jesus is not that 9. Kai's the closest we have, and some people are not having him, although I like him as a player. Right?
I do too. Yep.
So we need a 9, a true 9, because that's what we need to do to develop the next phase of our attacking play, right? So Elliot, I'm happy with those guys, because at this level now that we're at and where we're shopping, everyone knows the names. There will be no surprises now. Not where we're going, not where we're at. It'll be somebody we know dropping in. It won't be somebody who we've never heard of playing there. I was speaking to a guy called Ben online. Ben Mattison does all this player scouting stuff online. Really good guy. We were talking about centre forward, and I keep watching Arsenal. I keep watching the collective way we play, and I like it. I like how we move. I like having always having midfielders in play. I like that style. And I'm struggling to adapt my brain to a true 9 that may not be that great on the ball, but can score. I'm struggling. And he mentioned Hugo Ekitike. And
Ekitike.
Ekitike, thank you, Elliot. And we were having that debate. And I thought, because he's more of an all-rounder, a baller.
Yeah.
A really can carry it and move it, and he's collective in his play. Is he a ruthless scorer? Maybe, maybe not.
No.
Is he good in the air? Not bad on the back post. He's tall. He's got a lot of development room, but he can play. He can move. He can carry. And is that me looking for more of the same of what we already do? And does that go against my point about have we evolved enough? And to evolve, you need to bring something different. So Ekitike is probably similar to a Isak, maybe. Bendy forward that can do a bit on the ball and off it. So I'm torn, but I'm sure the club are going to get it right. Well, I hope so. They need to.
Well, I hope so. And look, people get very angry about when you don't rate a player they do, or when you rate them differently. Just to, I think, clear something up here, guys. None of us know. No, look at the clubs. The clubs employ hundreds of data analysts and scouts and tacticos and all these people. And when it comes to buying a striker, their hit rate's like 50-50 at best. So this is hard. This shit is hard. And the people who do it for a living struggle with it. So of course we're going to have differences of opinion. Could Sesko or Ekitike come into the Premier League and look like Højlund and Xerxes? They really could, because they're players in their development phase, as Højlund and Xerxes were.
Yeah.
Now, Højlund and Xerxes stepped into a mess. Ekitike and Sesko would be stepping into a good team with a great system with a lot of support around them to make sure that they could focus on the thing they do best. I don't know. Gyökeres? I think Gyökeres is a good player. Is it fair to identify that the guy has scored 5 goals against the top half of the Portuguese league, non-penalty goals? I think that is fair. Adam Ray Vogt pointed that out. Like, there are red flags with any purchase.
Yeah.
You know, just again, the bottom half of the Portuguese league is League One level. It's not even championship level. So, by the way, that's not me dismissing him. We scouted him. We liked him. But it's the point that there's error bars around this, which just brings me back to like Ollie Watkins. Is there a chance Ollie Watkins' ceiling is lower than Sesko's, Ekitike's, and Gyökeres? There is. But I think his floor is 15 goals for us. I think if he comes in, he's good. He does striker stuff, and we're good. If you buy Mateta, I think Mateta is just going to be good. He's not going to be trash. And that's where
But you're able to say that, Elliot, because you've seen them more.
I've seen them play the competition we are going to be playing.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
You're saying that with certainty.
Yeah, watching Ekitike run the touchline, you know, against Villa and get away and create a chance for himself, or that finish he did against us. Like, I know what he brings to the game. I watched Ollie Watkins against the Premier League. And so the thing that's exciting about buying outside the Premier League is the thought that what if you get the superstar? And that's exciting, and I want that too. The thing about buying inside the Premier League is you eliminate, I think, at least to some extent, the idea of what if we just bought the flop? And that's the thing that I think the club really have to think about is when we think about where to buy. And by the way, Leo Trossard, Kai Havertz, Ben White, Declan Rice, I'd regard Odegaard as an in-the-league purchase in a way because we spent a year loaning him before we decided to buy him, right? You can go right through the team. Jesus and Zinchenko, they transformed us. Granted, they fell away, but what they did when they arrived, because they were able to hit the ground right away and be good for us. We've had some success buying in the league. Now, we've had some success buying outside the league, maybe a while ago with like Saliba and Gabby. David Raya was inside the league. Our misses, Sambi, Vieira, you know, you look at some of that. I don't want to say there haven't been misses inside the league as well, but like it's harder. It's harder to get that right. So I'll be curious to see how we prioritize it. I think Berta and Mikel have to decide, are we reaching for the stars or are we trying to be more sure of what we're getting? And then that will, I think, guide a lot of the decision making.
It'd be interesting. The Ollie Watkins one's an interesting one. Ollie Watkins, Elliot, would be an interesting one because I think Arsenal didn't mind him around 40 mil. 6 months later on, they won't be offering 40 mil for him. He's 30 years of age. Lewandowski's still doing the business for Barcelona at 35? So Ollie Watkins is an interesting player. He's a decent 9. Personally, though, I can't help but get excited by the people outside of the league, you know, and they're the ones that really sort of make me think they're interesting. But the numbers have got to be right. We haven't got to be paying Harrods money. We don't need to, right? And let's not get mugged. You know, I think that's really key. Don't get mugged by these clubs. So,
Yeah, and just for anyone listening thinking that I'm like, I have a Premier League bias or that I think there's no talent outside the Premier League. I think there's phenomenal talent outside the Premier League. There's so much talent. It's hard. You're going to miss some of it you don't even know about today that'll be the superstar of tomorrow. My point is more about how you ensure, look, we're one of the best teams in world football right now. Making us better is hard, right? So how do you ensure that what you buy accomplishes that goal and minimizes the misses? Because right now, what we don't want to do is miss. So,
yeah, there is that. I think, and you know what this Champions League run has taught me? The exposure that it's given us, particularly in Madrid ties. I mean, I'm still watching those free kick goals today, right? The unbelievable amount of edits out there. And everyone else is watching. And so if you are a young player, the most important thing is that they really want to be on board with this. You know, they see this as a place, a destination place where they can go and achieve their goals. You know, Premier League pays the money. So they're going to get paid coming to the Premier League no matter what, right? But do they want to really achieve their goals at the very highest level? And we're now really exposed to all the best young players in the world. And if we do well in these PSG ties and go to the final, that's only going to increase. And so it comes to us what we want to do. These players will want to come. There'll be loads more players that want to be here than we can take on board. You know, so that's where the choice is. And I'm excited. I say I'm back to Sesko, mate, probably. I think he's 6 foot 100 and we can clip it to his head on the back post. And I'm sure that's going to work no matter what. So yeah, that's where I am at the moment.
Well, I'm sure it'll change 5 or 6 more times for you, for me, for the club. And it'll be interesting to see where they ultimately land. But it's going to be exciting. Obviously, we have more important things right now to worry about, to get our attention focused on. And we will certainly stay focused on that. But I just want to say how excited I am for tomorrow, how excited I am to go through this journey with everybody and to see where it lands. It's fun to think about transfers, but not at the expense of being excited about the moment. And that's where I'm at right now. So Clive, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Hey, everybody, please be sure to join us for the instant reaction over on Patreon tomorrow if you are so inclined. But otherwise, we'll have a main pod for you right after that. It's going to be a very exciting couple of weeks and hopefully a very exciting month or so. So we'll leave it there. My name's Elliot Smith. You can block me everywhere at all the things. We love you. And we will talk to you after Arsenal 10, PSG 0.